year.
On that very same building and just down the hall, there exists a completely different world as far as radio stations go. WMMS, one of Cleveland's progressive rock stations.
Starting at the corner of 9th and Euclid downtown, and he says to me, "This is Cleveland.
This is my city."
Get down, damn it!
Hey, we're back with another episode of Stairway to Cleveland. That's Keith.
That's Scott.
And tonight's special guest is our good friend and brother in vinyl, the legendary singer, songwriter, musician, Joey D.
Here I am, the artist.
There he is.
He is.
I made it here.
The self-proclaimed artist.
I made it to the dance. Look at me. I'm
He's here.
I made
Right
it.
here on Stairway to Cleveland.
That's right.
Welcome to episode 2. We're right here in Liquid Lounge, Joey's own homestead. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to have fun today. We're going to talk about Joey's career in music here in Cleveland, Ohio. He's been through a lot. And then we're going to move on to all the best clubs in Cleveland. There's so many.
Venues.
There's been
gonna be
so
a
many
mini-series,
great
I'm telling you.
venues. We might have to miss some, but we'll come back. We got plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Rick?
We got about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Which is plenty.
When the flames burn out,
The flames burn out.
it's over.
And then we're going to it again. We're going to battle.
The throwdown.
The throwdown. This week, we're going to Cheap Trick it up. We're each going to take one of our favorite Cheap Trick albums and debate on what album is the best. I'm going to win. So we'll go there. But first, let's start with our brother, Joey D.
Hi.
How you doing, buddy?
Here I am. How are you guys?
Thank you for having us,
Thanks
brother.
for having me.
Thank you for the...
Especially Fluger back there. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, man.
Fluger.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
No problem.
I'm sorry that I wasn't on the first episode, but I'm glad that I made it to the
okay.
second because, you know, sometimes the runner-up is
Hey, we had to call into
better
the
than the winner.
bullpen. We had to call into the bullpen.
Just kidding. No, but I did watch the first show, and Corey Roddick did a great job.
Corey's
so I want
awesome.
to give a shout out to him. 'cause
He's in
we
one of
love
your
him.
bands, actually.
Yes, he is. He's in Liquid, and he is. He should have a tattoo for vinyl because he has a lot.
He's
He
really
has a
getting
lot.
into it.
He is a superhero.
If he can fit it between all his hair bands and...
That's right, and he's been
He
around
finds space.
for a long time.
He has. And he's a great guy. We love him.
cool.
But we got you here tonight. So let's talk about you, Joey.
Oh, my favorite subject.
Oh, we know.
We know.
It's really not. Listen, it's really not my favorite subject to talk about things I've done or where I've been and how long I've been doing this. But since you insist, I will.
Well, you've been around a long time. When did you decide you wanted to play music? What was the moment? Were you a child? Were you in your teens? Puberty when you're starting to get interested in girls? What was the moment you said, hey, you know what? I want to be up on that stage.
Well, I'd have to say, mostly when I was a kid growing up, my older sisters always had music playing. My parents always had music playing. So a lot of the entertainment part of me came from acting out, like scripting dance moves and things in the living room at my mom's house with my cousins and my sister. They played so much stuff. I mean, I was around R&B. My dad used to play Stevie Wonder and all that stuff in the basement.
Sly
and the
Stone.
Family, Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah, we've talked.
My sisters played a lot of Bad Company, Pink Floyd.
Okay.
I really didn't know how much I was going to love music until I heard like the soundtrack for Tommy.
75?
It changed a lot of my life.
Sure.
And then later on, I didn't get my first record, so my sister gave me Kiss Destroyer.
So 76, you got your first record.
And once that happened, once I got a taste of music that actually I could relate to being a kid, and I heard something in it that excited me, I was like, wow, that would be cool for everyone to like pay attention to me. That'd be awesome. You
That
know,
little
I was-
ham inside you started boiling,
Right, and I was a shy kid, always in school. I mean, if you went back and looked at like papers that I wrote, it was like, I just kind of wanted someone to pay attention to me. So I kind of knew, you always hear those stories about people who play music. Somewhere in their life, there's a point where they were trying to get noticed.
Right.
So once I got a grasp of what kind of music I was going to love, which Kiss being obviously the first and foremost my whole life.
I think we could all agree on that, right?
Paul Stanley. And then I kind of knew. So I would act out stuff, and I, built like fake guitars like everybody did, and stood in the mirror and was like, what's going to be like if I'm ever a rock star?
Yeah.
And I think through the entire time that I have played music, from the first song that I wrote, which was called Rock On to Heaven.
Dig it.
I wasn't in Striper.
No,
I
but
did like
it
that
also
band.
sounds like a later Kiss song that wasn't good. But go ahead.
I actually formed bands that were like air bands.
Okay. Yeah.
So that kind of gave me the idea that I wanted to be a performer.
So what age was that about, would you say?
Ooh.
Preteen?
Between 8 and 12 were the most
Okay.
crucial years
All right.
of really figuring it out.
When did you actually pick up a guitar and say, hey, I'm going to learn how to actually play this thing?
Picked up a guitar. My sister was taking lessons, and I was probably 7, around 6 or 7, somewhere in there. And she was always frustrated playing it. So, when your older siblings aren't around, you're like,
Take their shit.
did you touch my drum set? Well, you're going to have that moment. And I did. I picked up her acoustic, and I started to teach myself. And like every other kid, you learned Iron Man, Smoke on the Water, Tush. It's stuff that you... And I'm like, I could do this. I could do this. But I had always been singing. I mean, if you ask my mom, I've been singing since I came out of the womb.
Right.
I mean, the minute that I've been screaming ever since. And I kind of been writing songs since the first use of a crayon.
Right.
I was always like trying to like find something that rhymes and learn that stuff. But not to toot my own horn. I mean, it's just,
It was in you. It was in you.
It's always been around me, I should say.
Sure.
It was always around me. So I didn't understand the whole aspect of playing an instrument, being an entertainer, wanting to be a performer. I just kind of knew that, hey, if I sang a couple songs by Tony Orlando and Dawn for my grandma, she would give me 50 cents. And I didn't necessarily have to sing it. I could just lip sync it. So I really didn't have to sing it. And, I could just go out there and Milli Vanilli it, and she'd be like, here's some money. And then it got to the point where she was like, here, I'm going to make you a singing jacket.
Really?
And I'm 5 years old, and I'm singing to Ragtime Follies by Tony Orlando and Dawn in my living room, and that's kind of where it all began. And then with my sisters, they love music so much, they took me to my first concerts, all that stuff, and you're just always around it.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's the fascination? Why does it connect with you?
Right.
And why don't I get it yet? Right. Until I got to Kiss, and then I really got an idea.
Now, did either of your parents, were they musical at all, or did they play any instruments?
No, but somewhere in the DePasquale family tree, there were a couple singers. One, my aunt Viola could have definitely been an opera singer.
Okay.
So somewhere in there. But my mom always sang to me when I was little. She always sang The Carpenters' Close to You to me since, and that's probably the first song in my life that I can remember that I would hear all the time. And like when you look back, what songs were popular when you were born? It was in the top 10. So no wonder she was singing it all the time. But it all sticks with you. You really are a sponge. And when people say to you, you're a sponge when you're little. Like, hey, you're so impressionable. Anything that's said to you or done to you stays with you. And it kind of just stuck with me. And my mom was always like, you know what? Somebody's kid's going to make it. Why can't it be mine?
Right.
And I should tattoo those on my arm. It's like that always stuck with me. So even till now,
I mean, it's great words of wisdom, and
why not?
Dream big, man.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you had the parental support.
Yeah.
Right. And
They gave you the tools.
Right. It was always there. I mean, I played sports too, and I did all that stuff through junior high, and you do stuff too, especially, if you have a dad that you're close with, they want you to do the things that they did.
Sure.
But I just always went back to, I wanted to be cool like my sisters, They always had the coolest friends, they always had the coolest clothes, and they always listened to the coolest music, and I was just always into that. I wanted to know how to be cool.
How old were we when you first joined your first band? How old were you? Did you guys play like the Battle of the Bands or the talent shows or anything of that nature?
My first gig was April 15th, 1987. In the first version of my first band, Fatal Charm, which had numerous amounts of names before that, and probably different players before that too, we had seen an ad, ironically, in the magazine Scene, Cleveland
Sure.
Scene.
Huge.
Everybody got the Cleveland Scene. You always read the Cleveland
Had
Scene.
to.
If you wanted to be a musician or you were into music or you were following bands, like bands that I was already in love with that were local, like Shock Paris, Haven, Spoiled, Champion, Fairweather, all those bands back then, if you wanted to know where they were, even though half the time I couldn't get in, that's what you had to read. You had to read the Scene. So we saw an ad for Battle of the Bands at Shadows on Brook Park.
Remember Shadows?
So Les Riga and I, because Les Riga was originally the first singer of Fatal Charm. I wasn't always the singer. I started as a guitar player. Whole other story. We saw an ad for Battle of the Bands, and we got up the courage. I remember being at his house. We're in his room, looking at all the posters, and we're like, we're going to do this. Okay. So we called, and we signed up. And sure enough, once you have that first gig, now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And you're in high school. I mean, I'm in high school, and you're watching everybody. You're like, I know that guy's a great musician. That guy's a great musician. But growing up in junior high and high school, you already kind of knew who the players were.
Sure.
And sometimes you knew guys that just looked cool but couldn't play. But you wished they played because their hair looked great.
We had some of those, yes.
I definitely did. So in forming the band, Les Riga, Kenny Clark, Greg Heido, John Pankos, these are guys that we all grew up together. You know, I was in University Heights in Bedford. We booked the first gig. Long story short, we played the first gig. Nothing cooler than passing out your first flyer. Oh, yeah. Come see us. We went up against a band called Baby Blue. And that band, which somebody watching right now will know that the bass player was Chris Torok.
I've heard of him.
I love Chris. Good
Chris is
guy.
an awesome guy.
Great guy.
From Almost Famous and Liquor Sweet along the way. And we weren't prepared. The only thing we were prepared about is that we had 4 or 5 original songs. We knew who we liked around town. We knew what we were already listening to local band-wise that you get your hands on. And the first album that we kind of gravitated to, Les and I, was a band called Haven, which had Danny Kaye, Daryl Swan, not the football player, and technically the person who got me most interested in being an entertainer, performer, songwriter was Sammy T, better known as Sammy Bernard. He was the singer. So we added one of their songs in.
Sure.
What better thing to do if you're going to be a new band than to already cover another local band?
Sure.
We didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
We just figured we were going to do something new. So we put together a set list, showed up for the show. There's judges. Thankfully, there's a couple judges, Sammy T being one of them.
Oh, no.
Darren Robertson, God rest his soul, being another.
Love Darren.
And guys that would appreciate us doing one of their songs. We didn't know. By any means, we didn't know. Anyway, the moral of the story is Baby Blue came out swinging. They were amazing. They crushed us. But that one song got us the votes. And the votes are what win. So
you won.
we did win that round.
Okay.
And we went back for the next round, and just so happens that Shadows closed their doors by then. So really, we got to open for actually a Metallica tribute band, Battery. So that was technically my second show.
Wow.
So that was actually, were you called Fatal Charm at that time?
We were called Fatal Charm. We got the name from an ad in a magazine, Kerrang magazine.
Sure.
And there was an article written about King Diamond, and it said Fatal Charm, and Les Riga, sure enough, me too, looked at it and we were like, that's the name.
Now, were you guys were all covers at that time?
We really didn't do any covers. We were serious.
So you came out
swinging with 5 originals, and we did one cover song, and that was the local cover song by the Sammy T. We did one song by Haven, and the rest were all ours.
Wow.
Wow. That's impressive.
So Fatal Charm started to grow from there. I mean, so you were still high school age at this time? Just out of high school?
16.
16. Okay, so
16.
you went, I mean, so I got my notes here.
It was like being a golfer. You get your first birdie, and you're hooked.
Right.
That's what it was. First applause, it was like you're hooked.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. You guys know.
Oh,
Well,
you know that feeling.
I'll tell you, my first show, our Battle of the Bands, we played the United States of America. And I've told this story before. But we
Great
got up
story,
there
man.
and we played, Dokken, and we played Bon Jovi, and we played whatever was cool at the time.
what was the name of the band?
Sure.
Trilogy, because there was 3 of us. I've always somehow
Dig it.
ended up in bands with 3 people. But we got up there, and the lights are in your face, and there's a bunch of people there, and you play your. We were really bad, but we played, and it was like, yeah. Crowd went crazy for us. I'm like, oh my God, we're rock stars. This is it. This is it. So we finished our 3 or 4 songs. We got off the stage. Next band came up. I believe it was a Dave Warner, one of his bands at the time, and they got
We
up
love Dave.
and they
Hi, Dave.
Dave's kicker's awesome, but they smoked.
Yeah.
But crowd goes. Well, it wasn't the crowd. The sound guy was piping in fake applause. Everybody was just standing there staring at the bands.
Even better.
Well, it was
But
kind
you
of
loved
a
it.
kick right in the nuts.
But yeah.
And that's cool that your first show was 1987, April 15th, because my first show was for the Maple Festival in Chardon, Battle of the Bands,
There you go.
and it was in the spring. So I don't know the date, but it was 1987,
That's what always happens.
and the name of our band was Above and Beyond.
All right.
Whatever.
They didn't play
What
the
we did is
crowd
we
noise
we,
for him.
we let both of our me and the drummer said to our moms, here's a list of names, pick them out, what you think would be good. And both of our moms picked that name. So we're like, oh, it's fate. So we ended up doing 5 songs, Panama, a couple
was
of
the
Bon
guitar player?
Jovis. I was the guitar player, Scott. And I played my gold top at that show.
Awesome.
That thing's been with me forever, but it's not about me. It's about Joey.
No,
But anyway, we
Yeah,
get up
Keith,
there.
It's not about you.
We get up there, and we're in the Chardon High School gymnasium. They have 2 stages set up.
Wait, the Maple Festival had it at the Chardon High School,
Yes.
not on the. Okay.
Yes. And so, we're nervous. We have all the guys from Arrowhead that worked at Arrowhead at that point, and that's where we all bought our stuff back in high school. They had a band, and they were really good.
Stephen
And-
Russ? Was it Stephen Russ?
I can't remember which guy was which, but then we also had Tyrone Hornbuckle
Okay.
was in a band that played the same Battle of the Bands, and we're like, oh my God, this guy is amazing.
Well, he is.
So we get up there and we do our things. We did, like I said, I think we did 3 or 4 songs. Or 4 or 5 songs. We did Panama, Living on a Prayer, Never Say Goodbye, and Moni Moni.
Is your set list?
Pretty close.
Yeah, we did Moni Moni by Billy Idol. Billy Idol's version.
Yeah, it was way cooler.
Yeah, it was much.
And,
Hey, get
you're...
laid, get.
No, go to
Yes.
school,
Is
that
read a
part in
book.
there?
The
Okay, cool.
whole gymnasium
I don't know that
starts screaming,
Get laid.
Oh, yeah.
get laid, get fucked.
fucked, yeah.
Okay? So we saw our sheets afterwards, our score sheets. We had all these good scores, and then it was crossed out. And then the lower ones were circled because we had the whole gymnasium yelling,
Of course.
get laid, get fucked.
Of course, because it's crowd response.
But it was great because, it was all the kids from your high school, and they were right here. Like when you're on the stage and they're right here.
I didn't do any high school shows.
No.
I wish I would have. Well,
I
Greg,
didn't either.
Greg, who was in Fatal, he did the pep rallies. I remember going, oh, that dude can play. And that's kind of the reason why we wrote our own stuff out of the gate, because I sucked so bad I couldn't play anybody else's shit. So, take the alternate route.
Right.
Write your own song, because if you can't play everybody else's or you don't want to learn everybody
And they won't know if
else's,
it's a mistake.
yeah, then you don't. But that's kind of how my musical spin goes. It's like I started original, stayed with it for so long, and now later in my life,
It's time to make the money now.
right. Well, you got to keep the lights on, and you also have to do what you love. And if it's still not a passion with you, then please, by all means, don't do it.
Right. Absolutely. So
I
Fatal
agree.
Charm. What did you guys end up doing? Did you release a record? What did you guys end up doing?
We released Assume the Position on cassette in early 1990.
Bill Korecki?
Bill Korecki at Mars recorded us.
The one in Parma?
Was it in Parma or out in the middle of nowhere?
It was actually part of a music store. So it was the back of the music store. It was actually Bill's first
Oh, the first one.
spot. And it was near the TikTok. I know the TikTok Tavern used to be on Brook Park. Maybe at some point there was it wasn't a Rallies then, it was called Snaps. It was on the corner.
Yeah, that's the Parma. Yeah,
That's
Brook
the Parma.
Park and
Parma,
Pearl
yeah, it was
Rose.
his first studio. And I think we were the first band that was doing it. I mean, that was trying to do it back then.
Spent many days in that studio.
We recorded our first record.
Did
there
you?
in 1988,
A lot of bands went in
Out of
there
the blue.
and recorded, and out of the blue.
I remember running the Snaps for a food run.
Yeah, and I remember them hearing it, and they'd be like, "Where'd you record this?" And we were like, "Mars." And next thing you know, that's where they went.
Now, what year was this?
That had to
90?
be early 90s. So for that whole time period from 86 to 90, personal changes, learning what you are, trying to be a musician.
Sure.
So, and we wrote a ton of songs, and we're like, you know what, let's record them.
Now, did the record get traction once it was out, or?
It got me a lot of shows.
Okay. Local? Did you go on tour at all?
We
What'd you
did
end up
some out-of-state stuff. We only did Shamokin, PA, which is like Beatlemania. The whole town shut down as we came in there and played. With Unified Culture was on that band.
Oh.
Mike Martini.
And Craig.
And we did...
Shout out?
Yeah, we did Chicago. Chances Are in Chicago, Palantine, Chicago. We had so many different people that really tried to help us along the way. I mean, we worked with Spotlight Talent.
Oh, I worked with Spotlight back in the day.
Mitch and I were very close. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He was a very dear friend to me. And he believed in what we were doing, as did a lot of people along the way. And I thank each and every one of them. I don't have one bad thing to say about anyone that ever took the time to say, here, I'm going to put you on a show with this band. Because every single show we did, the minute that cassette was released, if getting signed and having a record deal and making it on MTV was the ultimate success, I have no complaints because we were never not busy.
That's awesome.
And I opened for everybody. Sure. On their way up and on their way down. From the Bullet Boys to Trickster to Quiet Riot to any band that Mitch could put us with, we played.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
And back then, there was a lot of clubs to play. It's different than now, and that helped. It helped.
And there was a built-in following. This is before the internet and all this
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Hey, internet. But yeah.
Here, speaking of that, here, let me do a quick plug real quick with one little prop. Back in the day, to book a show, for me, I followed this magazine called Polestar.
Okay.
And because I was either friends with or working at Camelot Music, these magazines would come in. So I would have a jump on who was already touring.
Okay.
So every time I went through there, I would see a band that I recognized in the hair metal or hard rock or whatever, and I'd see that they were going on tour in what month. So having that knowledge, that being my internet, I would call up Mitch, or I would call up the Cleveland Agora and talk to Johan, or I would call up somebody at the Empire or wherever at Peabody's. I already knew they were coming, and they couldn't understand how I knew. And I'd be like, well, I want to be on the opening for this show. Well, how do you know? We haven't even announced it yet. Well, because I know. And that's a lot of the time the bird gets the worm.
Hey, like I said, rather be lucky than good when it comes to a lot of that
Right.
stuff.
It wasn't about being good or great or having the most people come.
It's opportunity.
It was about you gotta go after it. If you want it. So, ambition.
Yeah. So Fatal Charm went to 95, you said, right?
I went to 86 to 95. In 95, 94, we released a purple disc that never had a cover. It's just called the Purple Disc. That was really the last thing that we released. The band, music changed.
Sure.
The band's going in different directions. Guitar player, bass player, Greg Hido, Kenny Clark. Still all the same four guys, though. That
Really?
whole
Okay.
time. So, except for the early stages. But anyway, they wanted to do different stuff. Music changed. The grunge thing, it was kind of hard to carry a torch for songs you're singing about relationships when nobody really wanted to hear about that. And I was the poster child.
Sure.
And I still believed in it. And I ran Fatal Charm as far as it could go.
Yeah.
And the last show I did was opening for Slaughter at Slam Jams in the Flats.
Another band bar we need to talk about.
And
yeah.
that was me, basically still waving the torch. And then you kind of knew our taste, personnel in the band was changing. You had to reinvent yourself, just like everybody else.
So Fatal Charm came to an end.
Yes.
Now, did you roll right into another original band, or did you take some time and?
I've never had a break.
Okay. So what happened after Fatal Charm ended?
I started a band called Liquid, which carried on with the drummer from Fatal Charm. We were a three-piece. It was myself, Seth Hayek, and John Pancoast. And
Great lineup.
We decided that we were going to not be the grunge thing, but we were going to be whatever happens. And it was a lot of Gin Blossoms, Goo Goo Dolls.
Sure. Now let me backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
So we're back to Fatal Charm. Les was your singer.
In the very beginning.
Okay, so you kind of just became the singer. How did that happen?
I was the guitar player in Fatal. So Les had sang for us. I wrote a lot of the songs. It's hard to say all this on camera because this is history that people really don't know. I wrote, Greg Heido and I and John Pancoast, we wrote the songs. So I wrote a lot of them. So when I was trying to translate the singing of it,
right,
the rest of the band would be like, why don't you just sing? And it wasn't because anybody was better than anybody else. It was just a lot.
They thought you knew the song better.
Your interpretation of your own material.
Right. It was just
fit.
quick. It was a quicker, result. So I became the singer. We were still a four-piece. We went from a five-piece to a four-piece. And we just carry on that way. And it stayed that way.
So when Liquid started, you were already the singer, guitar player.
Singer, guitar player.
Okay, so it was a three-piece band at that time.
Band.
Okay, what happened with Liquid once it started? Did you guys put out original material?
We did a quick little demo of 4 songs. You kind of know the routine. You guys know. Once you find that formula, you do the same thing. You knock on a lot of doors. You go to a lot of clubs. You see a lot of the other bands. But you always try to find your home. So at that point in Liquid, when Liquid was starting, like I said, it was different. So I didn't really know how to go back to those same clubs that were changing.
Sure.
I worked at Scalpers. Thank you, Frank Pines, my brother-in-law.
Right here.
We love it.
Scalpers.
Right.
Scalpers.
And you guys know, Frank
Yeah, we love him.
has always, I worked there as a bartender for a long time, and he always gave me the outlet to play whatever I wanted to play. And if I had a Saturday that wasn't booked out of the 4 Saturdays in a month, I'd always have a place to play. He always gave me that launching pad. And I'm very grateful to that. Even in Fatal, when I wasn't sure on what it was going to do to Liquid, he always just said, come play a show. Play Friday night. Play Thursday night. Play a Tuesday night. Do whatever. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of our stone pony.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So a lot of my fill in the gaps of reinventing, writing new material, creating a new band starts a lot with Scalpers. So, and with Liquid, that started to take off, got attention, we did well. I added Greg from Fatal Charm. He added himself, technically, but I added him too. I said, listen, you got to come play with us.
And he's amazing.
This
amazing
is the stuff that we're doing. My former drummer in Fatal Charm moved to Los Angeles, hence Tony Pines joined the band, and we started to create a sound. Used to talk about anything in my life. And I sugarcoated everything in your eyes. I can make 1,000 promises when you die. All the lies keep you alive. And I wish I would have made you proud. Sure. And that sound, in the same time, was a sound that was very familiar on the radio, and it was really unintentional.
Okay.
To sound like Collective Soul and Foo Fighters, but that's kind of where we were in the beginning, and Foo Fighters was just starting to be something.
Sure. And
we were getting away from the more of the Goo Goo Dolls, Gin Blossoms kind of thing that Seth and I were so fond of, the big harmonies and all that. we turned into something that was actually a good rock band.
Yeah. And it continues to this day. I mean, the lineup has changed a little bit now.
It was fun.
But
You
so
guys
when
did
did
good.
now with Liquid? Okay, so technically the band is still together. You have a new lineup, and you still play. You release material.
Yes.
But in that meantime, you kind of discovered the cover band scene.
I did, but not really till towards the end of Liquid.
Okay.
So you got to give Liquid the first 5.5 years. Liquid did really well. We released a CD with this sound that we had created and a thing that actually related to people. We were getting a lot of attention from a local thing called the Starboys, used to ride motorcycles.
Okay.
We played the Odeon, sold out. I was opening for Veruca Salt. I was playing with Buck Cherry. I was opening for Tonic. We were opening for so many of the 90s rock bands.
Sure.
That it took notice. And we submitted the CD for a contest on VH1.
Okay.
Never thinking twice about it because the internet is brand new.
It is.
I'm on AOL, dial-up, DSL, all that stuff. Wait for it.
Welcome.
Oh, I'm going to log this in. And I'm going to go do some other things and come back in 3 hours. So I submitted the disc or 2 songs or 3 songs or whatever they asked for an inclusion on a CD that would say America's Best Unsigned Artists.
Okay.
Entail with that, we're like, okay, well, if it happens, great. 3 months later, I get an email.
AOL.com.
You've got mail.
I'm still on AOL. Sorry, everybody else. Got an email that said, your song is in consideration for this. Really? No shit. How cool.
That's great.
Long story short, we won the contest.
Wow.
So Ohio's contribution to unsigned artists is Liquid.
Wow.
So Liquid gets to open for Tom Petty at the Polaris Amphitheater.
Tom Petty. I've heard that name somewhere.
Really small band. Had a thing, Heartbreakers, maybe a couple hits. I'm
Not
not positive. Google
Doesn't
it.
sound familiar.
Yeah, Google him.
Google it.
But hey, it doesn't sound familiar, but hey, at least you got a shot at something.
Right. So that's your closest claim to get it. But from there, also, so we opened for Tom Petty, Polaris, great. Didn't let us eat their catering.
Yeah.
You're not here anymore.
We could
Tom.
talk stories
Thanks,
about
Tom.
that all the
Anyway,
time.
we got a lot of stories about that. But from that, the actual there was a label that was interested called Beyond Records. So Beyond Records was a form of Left Bank Records. They put out a CD, a compilation CD for another contest. So the winning of Unsigned Artist turned into another contest with the hopes of opening for Motley Crue on the Generation Swine, which
Ooh.
everybody knows that was only club dates.
Right.
Only. Long
Great
tour.
album.
Great album. So we're in consideration for that, to open for them. We don't win that contest, but the head of A&R, Michael Preston there, loved the song Migraine off the Liquid album, which is ironically the first song that the 4 of us wrote together in a room.
Is it still available online?
It sure is. You can get it on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, whatever.
We'll put all that info at the end of this
Yeah.
episode.
So
Right, Rick?
Yeah. I'll
we're
have all
going
the
to
links
include
to
your
everything.
song on a compilation. So lo and behold,
Just let him go.
lo and behold, we get included on a compilation with the likes of Sponge and Motley Crue.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I got one song signed, just can't get the whole band signed and the whole record signed. But we did a lot of work. I mean, we had momentum. And it was exciting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're like,
absolutely.
let's go, man. We can get this record deal. And that's what everybody wants. I mean, when you start, that's what you're after. You're like, record deal. If you love what you're doing, great. But it's all who you know. Because I spent a lot of time on the phone with the record label and trying to cut new demos. And we cut the song I Hate You, which became the biggest song Liquid ever had. And the label that passed on us, that was their least favorite song.
Really?
So they don't always know.
Right.
You know, and one song can build you a career. And if I've had any career in Ohio with Liquid, it's been because of that song.
That's awesome.
You know, it's had some legs and longevity, and it was included on videos for the Starboys, and people still stream it online, and 4,100 people listened to Liquid last month on Spotify, and I'm still shaking my head going, who are you people? What are you doing?
What's
Thank you. You know, you're
right.
grateful for that. And so, you feel like you've left some skid mark, you know, on the stairway to Cleveland.
So Liquid came to its end.
We kicked ass. It
For
really
now.
never came to its end.
Right. It continues to
It's
this
still
day.
going to this day.
But your initial run came to an end.
Yes.
So you discovered cover bands. Is that what happened? And you went into the cover bands.
I was still in Liquid.
You decided to finally make some money, get in the cover
Well,
band
see, I
scene.
didn't know about the money.
Okay.
So one of my best friends, Jason Burke, was singing with a band called Stone Groove.
Okay.
Jason called me up and said, why don't you play bass? And I was like, well, what kind of stuff is it? It's a little bit of everything. It's some 60s, it's some 70s, it's some 80s, and some 90s, and today. All right, I'll come down and check it out. I'll play bass. I don't really have to sing.
I mean,
Awesome. And
how hard is bass?
Well, no, I mean, it's 4 strings. I mean, how
It
hard
depends on who you are. If you're Rick Fluger, it's not hard.
All you need is an E and an A.
Oh, you guys got jokes. Anyway, I can Nicky Six it. I'll come down and Nicky Six it for you guys. I can only need a couple strings and some kind of look cool. Whatever. So I went down, listened to it. Great song selection. Jason and I had been singing together. I mean, karaoke-wise, when I was writing songs in Fatal, Liquid, whatever, I always heard him, could harmonize with me perfectly. I could harmonize with him perfectly. I'll do it. I'll play bass. So I played bass. Still in Liquid, playing bass. Got our first pay. I was like, what's this?
Oh, there's money in this?
Wait, there's more.
Wait a
Wait, we're
minute.
going to make some money? Oh, this is cool. How many times a week can we do this? And so it begins.
And so the journey down the cover band
That's
path.
right. So Stone Groove went for a while. I played bass in that until it defunct. Not that Jason and Bob played together for years and did acoustic shows for a long time because it was easier to set up an acoustic show than it is for a full band. I did get a wonderful thing out of that band. Steve Melman, who played drums in Para Ubu, joined Liquid, and we became great friends, and he helped me write some of the best songs I ever wrote in Liquid. Phenomenal drummer. Thank you, Steve. But I got a taste of money. It's like, you know, what's that like to get paid for playing music? I didn't know. I mean, everybody in the city had been doing it for years. There were bands out there. Shout outs to all the bands. I got a shout out to the first band that I remember doing covers religiously and gigging weekly would be Tripside. And those guys, shout out to you guys because you really, they kind of paved the way in Cleveland for our generation of cover bands. So I'm not talking about like the Fairweather, Champion, Quick, bands that have been doing it prior to us in the 80s and early 90s. Those guys came along and just, they crushed. You couldn't go to 185th Street any night. I mean, they were always playing. And I didn't know.
1988 did the same thing, too.
Right, and 88 came along and did their... Dude,
Dave and Dave Bellinger.
God
and the guys,
bless you guys. And who knew? And it really, I got a lot of flack from my friends for a long time for doing covers, but then...
Sold out.
They were like, you know, you get the whole sold out. And you know what?
Whatever.
Bitch, I'll sell out to keep the lights on and feed my kids. I'll sell the fuck out today. Yes. And that's fine, because I'm not... It's just showing that you can play everything, and you love music that much, and the money's great. But you love music that much that you'll do anything to do that rather than have to do something else.
Right. So Stone Groove, how long were you in Stone Groove for?
Stone Groove was a couple years, 2.5 years maybe, and then I'm like, I could do my own thing. I started Hit Machine.
Hit Machine was a great band.
Hit Machine, thank you.
That's when I first met you, was in Hit Machine.
Yes, it
well, I
was.
know we've crossed paths in our former lives, but
We have on and off stage. Just like Keith and I had been on shows and never really.
Yeah, that was the Fatal Charm days. It was early.
Yeah, it was Fatal
90.
and in Liquid with the Zooters. And
we actually played a couple gigs together.
Circuits were just great, and I remember Hogwash and you kicking
and the Rubber Mullet,
and kicking ass out there.
what was the era? Hit Machine, what years were you in Hit Machine? Because I remember seeing you at the old Boneyard down the street here.
Hit Machine started in 2007, the end of it. It ran from 2007 to exactly New Year's Day 2010.
Okay.
Was my last show with them.
Now, did you call it, or did the band
I called it.
Okay. Now, what happened after Hit Machine?
And then, well, after Hit Machine had a great run. We played a lot of rock songs, and I love everybody, but that was the kick-ass band. We played every song rocked up. It was so much fun. We had a blast. The guys had a blast. It just got too busy, and a lot of guys are family guys, and I understand. I have no disrespect to anybody that chooses their family over playing music. You should. God bless you.
Sure.
I had been asked to join Disco Inferno 6 years prior to all of that, and actually a few times prior to all that, and I just wasn't in that frame of mind yet.
Now, Disco Inferno, for those who might not know,
It's
are
a really small cover band in
yeah,
Cleveland.
they're probably the biggest cover band, tribute band in Cleveland.
Franchise.
25 years.
25 years. Now, you started actually filling in on bass in disco first before you
did.
became the singer, right?
Seth, who was the original bass player of Liquid, was in Disco Inferno and asked if I wanted to do some fill-in shows for him because he was traveling back and forth to Nashville. I said, you know what? I would love to play bass in something else. I don't have to be the front guy. I don't have to worry about getting sick. I don't have all the pressure. Wow. I'm sorry, everybody that plays guitar and isn't a singer, and your drummers
LSD.
and the drummers that get to sit down all the time. But you do have to stay healthy to be a singer, especially if you're doing it 3 or 4 nights a week.
That's right.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
And
Brother.
and before I go any further with that story, so I decided to do that, and I did a few gigs on and off. They had already been around for 18 years or however long it was then. And Sonny just came up to me after my very last show with Hit Machine at the Boneyard on New Year's Day, 2010, and said, I don't care what your plans are to play bass, but you need to be the singer in my band.
Great foresight.
And I looked, I was drinking a Corona, sitting on the steps in the backstage of the Boneyard, and I looked right at him and I said, okay.
What year was this now?
2010.
2010.
So you've been in disco since 2010 now? Has it been that long?
I'm in my 11th year. As of February 19th, it'll be 11 years.
That's a lot of hats.
But yeah, and it's been a glorious 11 years, and a lot of it is careful what you wish for, because I had no idea what it would be like playing 135 plus shows a year and going, wait, this is what guys do on the road and like sign national bands, and what? You're not on drugs? You have to be on drugs.
Right.
No, it's not a lot of that. I don't want to give the wrong message to kids, but it is careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because you're really going to see.
You do have a lot of hats.
I have a lot of hats and a lot of clothes. And
They're amazing, and like I said, I borrowed them.
and a lot of travel time.
And a lot of travel time.
Yeah. Dude, don't touch that. You'll catch
Oh
on
yeah,
fire.
I know. I am getting a little warm. You might need to.
So
turn
okay,
that
go
down.
see Joey in Disco Inferno.
Oh, my
They play
God.
like 17 times a week.
Yes.
So go see them.
45 times a month.
And they play all the clubs in town, so go see them. And speaking of clubs,
Yes.
it is
Let's
time
get to it.
now
Let's get some clubs in.
to talk about the greatest clubs in Cleveland history.
Because this guy's played every single one of them at
Almost.
least once.
At least
Close.
one. I'm going to need my notes for this round.
Close. You're going to need your notes because we're already a couple bourbons in, and I might not remember them all.
Well, let's start at the top. Let's. Some of these I got information on. Some of these we don't. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. If you guys who are watching this know of a club that we didn't mention, please feel free to leave us a comment or email us. Let's start at the top with, of course, the Agora.
Which one?
Well, that's the thing. There was the original Agora, which was actually near Little Italy, I believe.
Yes.
It was there briefly near Case Western. Then it moved over to the infamous and famous. It's more in than famous. At East 24th Street, 1968. It moved over there.
Then it burned down.
There was a small fire.
There was a couple. It moved.
The Agora on East 24th Street,
Right?
that literally had, I mean, it started everything.
Yes.
I mean,
Springsteen.
Coffee break concerts? Was that
all the
there?
coffee break concerts. Todd Rundgren,
Sure.
Back to the Bars.
I never played there.
You never played there?
I played-
the original.
I
no.
played the last one, yeah.
Well, because the original, I think, burnt down in, what, 78, I
Yeah,
want to say?
that was
Something like that.
before my time. I was still making change for my grandma then.
Yeah, there was actually 12 Agoras at one time. They opened them all over the place.
I
We
remember
had
the Akron.
Columbus, Toledo, Youngstown, Painesville. There was a Agora in Painesville.
There was.
Akron, which we'll get to.
Played it.
Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Tampa,
I don't know.
Hartford, New Haven. I mean, there was a lot of them.
Did
In
the
Miami.
LeContes own all those too?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. The original, the one that the LeContes opened, was actually known as the Alpha Club. And then when they moved it over to East 24th Street, that was known as the Beta Club.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No.
Also, the Agora One Trick Pony with Paul Simon. The opening scene in that movie was filmed
Oh,
there.
it was late in the evening.
So when the Agora burnt down on 24th, they moved it over to
55th.
right,
Prospect.
right.
It's 55th and Euclid. It's the old
Well, I-
Metropolitan Theater.
I've only ever gone in the back door. I don't know about the front.
Ooh, ladies.
That's what she said.
Where my girls at?
Now you'll find where the girls are at.
It's fine that I set myself up for that one.
Yeah, it was an old was an opera house, Rick, I think, in a vaudevillian place, and then they
Yeah.
eventually
Beautiful
became
room.
what it is now. It's actually 2 rooms at the Agora now. There's a small ballroom, and then there's the large venue.
Fun fact, my third show I ever played in my life was at the Cleveland Agora Theater with Spoiled and a band called Madrian. Third show I ever played. Wow. It's great. May 22nd, 1987.
Thanks, Gene Simmons.
Wow.
Let's talk about the Akron Agora.
Well,
Oh, boy.
we can talk a
I
lot
think
about the Akron Agora.
We've all spent plenty of time at the Akron
I
Agora.
left a lot of DNA there.
I think we all may have.
Yeah.
So many great bands went there. The most recognizable thing of the Akron Agora is that freaking dance floor.
Oh, yeah.
They had the best dance floor
Ever. It should
straight
have
out
been-
of '77.
Yep. Straight out of Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
But bigger.
But we saw, I mean, Warrant used to play there quite often because Janie was from that area.
I met Janie at
As
the Akron.
did I. Yeah, he was a great guy. Out of the Blue. That's where I first saw Out of the Blue, was at the Akron
Warrant,
Agora.
Zaza, Out of the Blue, Kid Wicked, Enough's Enough, Extreme, Alice in Chains. I mean, the list goes on forever.
I saw most of those shows.
King of the Hill.
there. I saw most
Oh,
of
I
those
love that
I
shows.
think I
cartoon.
was at every single one of them. And one of the best cover bands played every Wednesday night, Tin Pan Alley.
Wow.
They were
Yes,
my favorite.
I remember them.
Do you remember
they
the
were
name?
great. They were
That's too long of a
great.
drive for me, though. And we got kicked out of there way too often. Okay, let's roll down some of these other ones.
Go ahead.
Babylon A Go-Go. Do you remember Babylon A Go-Go?
I remember it.
I remember the club. I don't remember being there.
I didn't frequent it, but I know that it was there and that had some good alternative.
It was awesome.
It
it?
was
In the 90s, it was the best club in
Yes.
Cleveland. Man. It was
It
the
was
place to
the
be.
club.
That,
It was
grog
alternative?
shop, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw a lot of up and coming acts there, like Primus opened for or Soundgarden opened for Primus, or
Right.
vice versa. Was at the Babylon A Go-Go.
No
And then
kidding.
I don't know if you guys know who Tad is, but I was
of
a big
course,
Tad
yeah.
fan. Yeah, the Seattle band, Rollins.
Wow.
There's all kinds of people played.
It was
there,
like the
man.
Grog, like how the Grog shop
Yeah,
was.
it was a
like-
smaller grog shop. Yeah,
It was our answer
shop.
to CBGB's.
yeah, I guess.
Now, the
For
original-
2 years or something like
The
that. It
original
was
grog
open.
shop was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first bar job
At the grog shop?
at the original grog shop. Yeah.
Wow.
Shit.
Well, now let's move on to the Beachland.
Oh.
I mean,
Come on.
talk
We could
about...
do a whole episode on
We're
the
going to
Beachland.
have to do a whole episode
We
on
may.
the
Should.
Yeah,
we can
have
interview
to.
Cindy.
We'd love to get Cindy in here and
Love
talk
to
to her.
interview Cindy Barber.
For the tavern alone,
Oh, man.
the people that have been on that stage or graced that club.
Oh, my
or-
God.
My God.
The
Well,
Beachland.
I mean, the Black Keys have played there, the Cramps, the White Stripes, Striper. We all saw Striper
we were all
together.
there together. Butch Walker.
Butch Walker. I mean,
The MC5. I saw the MC5 there.
wow.
Detroit's finest. That's a good show. I mean, that was actually constructed in 1950 as a Croatian Liberty home.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cindy and Mark bought it in 2000 and changed it into the Beachland. And it's been amazing. I mean, it's
Oh,
just
it's
a
the coolest
staple.
venue.
It is a cool venue.
I love
And we
it.
will talk more about Beachland in coming up episodes, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely.
Cleveland Cafe.
Come on.
another
Oh, my God.
place-
I was there every Thursday night.
Me too.
Me and
I played
Chef
there quite
Ray Gak and
Chef
Jason
Gak?
Burke. We were there every Thursday night for Out of the Blue.
And I was there.
Religious.
I was the chauffeur
Religious.
for one of those
I think
band members.
They opened for themselves. It was cool. Electric Chair opened for their own band. It was great.
Let's talk about Hullabaloo. Now, there were four or five of them, but the one I mostly have heard about is the one in Menor.
You guys have me stumped on that one.
That's a Raspberries venue. That's
I
where
can
they
tell you-
started.
There was a lot.
I never played it.
Well, it was gone in 1970, so
Before my
That's
time.
why. Maybe that's why.
yeah.
But great history.
It
though,
was
on the Raspberries.
literally
I did play there
across
because
the
I remember
street.
seeing the posters.
Yeah.
It's right by where Record Den is. It's a little bit past that, kind of where Starbucks and stuff is. It was just dingy old building, and it was a teen club. They used to have teens come in there. They would serve no liquor to the teens. It was a bowling alley originally, and then they turned it to a Torchlight Lounge. Yeah, and then it became a nightclub. And I mean, again, Todd Rundgren played there.
Yep.
Rod Stewart played there. Jimmy Page played there.
Didn't know that.
With the
Not that I-
Yardbirds.
With the Yardbirds, not that crappy band. Led
Didn't
Zeppelin.
know. Had no idea.
Hey,
Faces played there. Ted Nugent played there. Alice Cooper played there. Jeff Beck played there. I mean, the Raspberries played there
The
constantly.
Stooges opened for the MC5 there.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing the
See,
posters.
I mean, it's just amazing that our little neck of the woods had this
It used to be
rock
bigger.
and roll.
There's a
hub.
huge history. People really, the kids these days have no idea, and I sound like an old guy saying that.
Get off my lawn.
They really have no idea what the music scene used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Where you could go out every night. We had the Broadway of Nashville. We had that. It was the flats.
it was.
You could go
We're
see
gonna talk about
bands
that in a
every
minute.
night.
But even before then,
Yeah.
and I tell people this all the time, because I don't think people understand how instrumental Cleveland
Yes.
was for the first wave punk scene. Like a lot of those bands, especially doing research for this stuff, you learn that Velvet Underground were having a hard time getting gigs in New York, so they would come to Cleveland and they'd play the Viking Saloon and La Cave, and that's how bands like the Electric Eels and the Mirrors and the Styranes and stuff influenced a lot of these people. And they took that influence back to New York, and the CBGB scene
Right.
exploded and stuff. But a lot of that came from early 70s Cleveland.
Le Cave, we talked about that. Again, Simon and Garfunkel, Jose Feliciano, Arlo Guthrie, Tim Buckley, Jimi Hendrix, Jefferson Airplane, Jeff Beck there,
Where was
featuring
this-
Rod Stewart.
Where was this located?
Where was Le Cave again? Le Cave. Then, of course, a place we're all familiar with is the Odeon.
Yes.
Yes.
Or do we remember it when it was a draft house first?
I cannot.
And it had picnic
that.
tables in it. I played there, and it was a show that wound up on some of the show. We got interviewed on Channel 3 or something for it, and it was cool.
I graced that stage once.
I played with Veruca Salt there. I actually sold it out once for the Star Boys.
I played a gold top that wasn't mine on that stage.
Great venue. Loved it there.
I
Best
played-
dressing room.
Yeah, that was great. We played with Rick Emmett from Triumph there,
Nice.
Nazareth, Kip Winger.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Dump
we-
them all
we-
out.
Nah, it's not about me. It's about
Yes, it is. It's about the history of the places that we
Well, in the
remember.
Odeon, the Odeon, again, it was one of the big East Bank of the Flats places to be. It held 1,000 people, which was, it was closed in 2006, and it reopened in 2019. It still has some shows in there. I don't think it's
There's a
nowhere
few.
near.
Yeah, I see. Sometimes I see.
Ever since the
that's
House
what-
of Blues and things of that nature
Right.
came into town,
Right.
it kind of. But some of the places that people that played there, again, Metallica played there.
Mm-hmm.
9 Inch Nails, again, Todd Rundgren, who played I think he
everywhere.
played this room.
He
at
loved
one time.
Cleveland. He might have played the Liquid Lounge.
He
Weezer,
probably was here.
the Ramones, Smashing
Ramones.
Pumpkins.
Yep. He didn't mention Veruca Salt though, or Tonic.
Yeah, he did.
All those good
I
90s
think he
bands.
said Veruca Salt.
That's right.
Now let's talk about. We're going a little bit to the Rick's neck of the woods with this one. The
Where are we
Fantasy.
headed?
Fantasy theater.
Fantasy.
Which one? Theater or the
The
night?
whole entertainment
Whole- the
complex,
complex.
Amazing. I played so many shows there. I love that
I mean,
place.
you had the
I do love
boat.
that place.
Yeah,
How'd they get
the
the
boat's
boat
in
in?
there.
The
I
boat
don't
is
know.
The boat.
Don't
And I
sit
actually
around
looked
the
this
boat.
up. The John DeFasea, I believe, who's the owner. He saw the movie Mutiny on the Bounty, so he decided to put a pirate ship into the place.
It was great, dude.
Love the pirate ship.
I mean, it was definitely something you noticed when you came into the place.
Nobody ever
I
made out.
I
inside
have been
with
in there no
anybody.
less
Never happened.
than a dozen times.
But you remember, I mean, we had the fantasy,
I mean, that's me.
the chamber,
Yeah,
the
I remember the
symposium,
chamber.
Yeah,
and then the
Symposium.
theater.
The Symposium. I never played the Symposium or the Chamber, but I did do the Fantasy nightclub. And
Did you know Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett performed there the day before Light of Day came out?
Come on,
Anyway.
it's a great movie. I went to the theater to see that movie.
So Nine Inch Nails played their first show there
at the Fantasy?
at the Fantasy. Annie DeChant was there all the time. Devo, Lucky Pierre, the adults, the pagans.
Theater or the nightclub?
I would say probably the theater.
Most of that was probably theater, I would say.
The Red Eye Rock Club.
Red Eye was cool,
I remember
man.
the Red Eye.
Billy Morris had a big thing to do there at the Red Eye. He actually had a recording studio in there, too.
did.
I played there. Great room.
Yep.
Sahara Club.
Oh,
Willoughby Hills'
Willoughby Hills.
finest club. I think everybody came in and out of that place at one time.
It was a great place to fall asleep on the hood of your car.
It was a great place to. It was a great
Yep.
place to party upstairs.
And for all your girls that hung out there, just remember that the dressing room was upstairs and there was a hole in the floor right into the bathroom.
It was a good
It was
time.
a classy place. There was a lot of things that went on there. I saw some great bands. Throw Money.
I saw my best memory of that place, and there weren't a lot because I was really drunk a lot there. Seeing Jerry Shirley getting in a fight there.
Awesome.
I mean, he was swinging haymakers. His wife was being friendly with another patron. Jerry didn't like that, so
Well, probably
that was amazing.
not.
So you see Zaza every
Zaza
week.
was there.
Token Tuesdays.
Again,
Spoiled
out of the
was
blue.
there.
Riser.
A ton. Throw Money's the one I remember the most because they were a cover band and they played Dan Reed and Eric Moorhead was the singer. God rest his soul.
Okay, let's move on. Spankies, East and
Yeah.
West.
Well-
East was more my thing because I was an East Side kid.
I played there twice.
Really, that's it.
That's it.
Played there a lot.
I played there with Ginger Rocks.
There used to be a you throw your coats in the booths there, and a lot of fun had. But then those
I
coats.
tried to stay away from Lake County as much as I could back then.
I don't blame you.
I don't know why. It
No
was just
offense,
very
Lake
weird
County,
for me. And no
but I don't
offense
blame
to
you.
Lake County at all.
No.
It just, I don't know.
It's
You
a
lived there
weird
for a while.
place.
The musicians
man.
over there were not
dare
nice
you.
to us, Cleveland musicians. They were mean to us.
Well, it was very vicious back then.
I don't know what your guys'
Well,
problem
yeah,
is.
back in the day,
Back in the day, it was
back in
cutthroat.
that time
I don't get
frame, it was all
I
competition.
don't get it. We all had long hair. Everybody looked cool. What are you mad at me for?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going to do a whole episode on this
That was
place
bad.
eventually.
Which one?
Swingos.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't know a whole lot about Swingos except the legend of Swingos. You've seen it in Almost Famous, the movie. They recreated that in Almost Famous. Elvis, I believe, was like a regular there. The Who were there.
That's-
Zeppelin was there.
if I'm not
Jerry Lee
mistaken,
Lewis.
that's where Kiss was stranded after the 77, 78, whatever it was,
the Blizzard.
the blizzard. They were stuck there.
They
at
loved
Swingos.
Swingos. There's a couple books that said that Kiss loved. That was like the hub. They'd go
Yeah.
to Swingos.
I don't know enough
That's where
about
they
it.
stayed when they came here for that.
But
I
I
was
know it's
at
on the
that
Gold Coast.
concert, by the way.
There was there's rumors that was a Gene Simmons Cher rendezvous spot. Was
okay.
Swingos, yeah.
So it wasn't the Holiday Inn.
The living in sin happened elsewhere.
Swingos. It's
But
all
Swingos,
happening.
we will look more into Swingos in future episodes because it,
Yeah,
it was that cool of a place.
Oh, yeah, it was iconic
It was a
for
rock
Cleveland.
and roll place. All right, let's continue. We got Swingos. I lost my list.
You had Swingos.
The
What's
Cove. How about the Cove in
Oh,
Geneva on the
It's
Lake?
great.
Opened in 1963 by Pete.
Still
Original,
is.
God rest his soul. Now running by his son PJ. I mean, Hendrix played there. Donnie Iris played there. Joe Walsh, L.A. Guns.
Temptations.
I opened for them there. Skid Row, Slaughter, Quiet Riot. David Allan Coe appeared with an opening act called the Church of the Lazy Bastards. Rick, you know anything about that?
that band is terrible.
I never played the Cove.
You never played the Cove?
Not in any of my original bands.
Really? We played there literally like
I was gonna say I saw
Sad.
you at the Cove
Next.
I know, but I played in
last summer, I think.
Yeah, in a disco band.
the Euclid Tavern.
Uke.
Yep.
Very famous place. Did you ever play there?
I never played it, but I saw a ton of shows there.
Yeah. Again, I think Light of Day was filmed a lot there,
Sure
wasn't
was.
it? It was again, it was a legendary club. I believe it's gone. I think it was right by Cleveland State, was it?
Right,
Did you ever go in the basement of the Euclid Tavern? That was the
Never
scariest
been there.
place ever. Did you ever go there, Rick?
Never been
The
there.
basement of the Euclid Tavern?
You had to be like a gymnastic expert just to go to the bathroom. Like you had to like leap over drunk people. There's a couple of missing stairs. Like
Parkour, I believe.
I was never in it.
that place was the greatest dive bar.
It was amazing.
The original one.
Ever.
Yeah.
Then a Happy Dog took it over and it turned into like a TGI Fridays.
It did have the worst parking ever, but good.
Let's talk. Now, let's move on. How about the flats bars? Now we talk. I mean,
Which end do you want to start at?
let's start. Let's go down by Silky Sullivan's or work our way back. Well, we had
Okay.
Silky
Palladium?
Sullivan's. Palladium didn't really. It was
Gotta
a
go around
dance
the corner.
bar for the most
Go
part.
around the corner.
Yeah, but it was a dance bar. It wasn't really a
Counts.
band.
I played there.
Okay.
Turned into a strip club.
You
No.
got Silkies.
Palladium
Silky's,
did.
Fagans.
Well, you going now? You're bouncing.
Well, Fagans was over here.
Okay. Sabers,
Sabers,
Peabody's,
Rum Runners,
Jimmy's, Beach Club, Basement.
Biggies.
Biggest is further down by Shorty's.
Yeah.
You skipped
Who did I miss?
Beach Club, Rum Runners.
The Poos never had bands, did they?
I you know what? I don't know. I think somebody a disco band played there once at DePoos. I don't know. I wasn't in it.
I was in a disco band for one night.
You might have played there then.
No, I played
But yeah, when
Fagans.
you go up and down the street, it's like
it was actually a scene. There was actually a
Yeah.
and then it
scene.
became Heaven and Earth was above
Heaven and Earth,
Peabody's.
yeah.
That was a great
I
place to
played,
play.
yeah, it was Fagans the night I played.
Fagans.
And I mean,
Fagans.
it was actually, you'd go club to club and just see amazing bands in every club.
Every single one, every Friday, Saturday.
And Nationals would come down there too. Rum Runners would get
Every night.
Nationals.
Rum Runners I loved. I played with LA Guns, Warrant, Love Hate.
Well, speaking of Peabody's, which was originally the Pirates Cove,
Yep.
and then became Peabody's, and then it was Peabody's Down Under as we knew it at the time. Talk about a great shithole bar. I played there and there was like 2 inches of water on the floor.
Didn't care.
Nope.
Amazing bands
Nobody
just
cared.
come through there.
Mr. Big, Enough's Enough. I played my first sold out show opening for Shotgun Messiah there with Fatal Charm.
I saw John Entwistle from The Who there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
a great
everybody would
place.
come through there. And it was amazing. Then when they shut the whole East Bank went away, they moved it over by Cleveland State.
Which was never the same.
It was never the same. It was more of like,
You could get pizza though at Rascal House Pizza. Was,
Rascal House Pizza.
I think the girl that worked there was probably hot.
Yeah, Rascal
That was
House
a little side
Pizza.
thing.
Nice.
but and now it's a parking lot. So
As it should be.
Peabody's went the way of the dodo, unfortunately.
But Peabody's in the Flats was just nuts. I
Yeah, it
can't
was
even
great.
tell you how
It
many
was-
shows I saw there. Tonic. I saw so many bands there.
I saw a lot of shows there.
And we played a lot of shows there. And that, again, goes back to what Rick was saying, where you'd have to sell tickets
Yep.
to get on the bill. And whoever sold the most tickets would move up the ranking of the...
You wouldn't go first, second, or third, but you had to you had to earn it.
Yeah.
Well, the Cielos owned that.
2 sold out Jane's Addiction shows. I was at both of them. Yeah.
The Hi-Fi.
Oh,
Love the Hi-Fi.
I love the hi-fi. Had a
Hi-Fi's
blast at
great.
the hi-fi.
I believe, is it still the Foundry now?
It's the Foundry.
Is it still the Foundry?
Miss Lisa Cavelli, I believe, is in charge.
And what
of
was
that.
it first? The Blind Lemon?
That I
Yes.
don't... Was it the Blind
was-
Lemon?
Yes,
Originally
it was
the
Blind
Blind
Lemon,
Lemon.
then it was the Hi-Fi.
Which
Which an
was like-
asteroids machine in the basement, if
It was
anybody
a
knows.
competition between Symposium and the hi-fi, or the Blind Lemon for the longest time.
And
Get
the
better
Hi-Fi
bands.
always had specials on Pabst Blue Ribbon.
And you know what else they had?
What's that?
They always had 9 bands on the show.
Yeah, you had a lot of
Cheers
those.
to your 9-band bill.
Yeah.
20 Minutes of Heaven.
Your band could always get a gig for 20 minutes.
Utopia in Willoughby.
Played it, was spoiled, opened up for them on a Sunday. Great club.
It's now a funeral home.
I know. It was a great club.
Variety
Everything
Theater.
must die.
I'm not familiar with Variety Theater. I think that was a little bit before any
Come
of our
on,
times.
Fluger. Because I'm going to name the biggest band I ever saw there.
I'm going to name the biggest thing that ever happened there.
What?
Motorhead
Oh,
broke
dude.
the record for
They
the
cracked-
loudest rock concert.
Didn't they crack
there.
the ceiling?
They
and
cracked
tiles
the
were
ceiling
falling?
and
Is
the
that the place where the
plaster-
plaster was
plaster
dropping?
fell
I
out.
remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a variety.
I saw
Yeah.
Metallica on the Ride the Lightning tour,
Wow.
and I had no
Second
idea
album.
who Metallica was.
Really?
And Wasp and Armored Saint were on the bill.
That's
and
a
I
great show.
Yeah, John Bush was amazing in
Holy
Armored Saint.
shit.
And Wasp, that was the only reason why I was there, because, I like the whole theatrical thing, and I was in second row, and then Metallica came on, and they opened with Fight Fire with Fire, and I was like, I'm not really sure what kind of music this is, and I'm not sure if I'm either afraid for my life or if I like it.
Yeah.
But needless to say, they became really big.
They did all right.
From seeing my notes here from Rick, the Variety Theater was opened in 1927. So it was around for a long time. It closed in 86.
That's a big variety.
It was
Saw Keel there.
vaudeville theater. They showed
Yeah.
movies and stuff. And
I
then
think Poison played there once.
probably.
I think they did, because I know they played the Old Brooklyn Tavern, because I was at that show. I also saw Megadeth at the Old Brooklyn Tavern.
So Variety Theater. RIP.
Excellent.
The
Excellent.
Viking Saloon.
Never heard of it.
I was not part of that.
I think that was again before our time, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, that was early 70s. That's
Early 70s. It burnt down in 75.
Dave Thomas, who is the singer for Perubu.
Perubu.
He was a doorman there. And they'd have all kinds of bands come through. Velvet Underground. Again, when I said like these bands from New York were having a hard
Right.
time getting gigs, they'd come to Cleveland, and the Viking Saloon was one of their stops. So that's where all those first wave Cleveland punk bands, the Electric Eels, Rocket from the Tombs, Frankenstein, the Mirrors, they all played at the Viking Saloon because that was really the only place in Cleveland that'll have them.
Wow. That's cool.
So another club that burnt down in Cleveland.
You didn't mention the Empire, though, and that's sad.
I did mention. I was going to mention the Empire. It was such a short window with the Empire,
But it
though.
was such a beautiful... It was like the extension of what Peabody's Down Under in the Flats originally was. Same owners.
Right.
Cielos. And they opened the Empire, and I just saw just a ton of amazing
bands
shows
there.
there.
Huh?
I saw a few there.
Dan Reed. I saw the Ramones there, front row.
Wow. We're headed down to some good old rhythm and blues at Wilbert's.
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 Wow.
I mean,
Staple.
so many amazing
Staple.
musicians played that place.
Staple.
Is it still open, Rick?
I believe in some fashion it is.
Yeah, I haven't been down that way in a while.
Me
so
neither.
Notable acts that played there: Albert Collins, Asleep at the Wheel, Buddy Guy. I mean, come on. Dave Alvin, Delbert McClinton, Jack White, Keb Mo, Keith Urban.
Didn't Rick Emmett play there, too?
No, he played the Winchester.
Yeah, I like that
I
place.
love the Winchester.
I like the
Winchester's a
Winchester,
great
too.
place.
Saw
Love
Dan-
the
I
Winchester.
saw Dan Reed there, too.
We had a vinyl dig there.
Yeah, I did.
That's where we decided we were going to get tattoos.
Coming up is the battle where I show these chumps what Cheap Trick album is the best. Are you boys ready to lose?
You're going down, dude.
Oh, shut up.
Don't even come up in here with that. You failed.
Battle time. All right, apparently we're doing wardrobe changes for the battle now. So we've got David Gilmour dressed up as Rick Nielsen over here.
Wow.
Grandpa Joey.
I had to
all of
put
a
my
sudden-
glass on because if I'm going to talk about records, like I'd be able to read the titles of the songs.
Back in my day, we liked Cheap Trick.
Why is he yelling at me? This whole show, I've been getting yelled at.
All right,
You know
we're going
what?
to defend.
It's a Scott thing, man.
Yeah,
he always
yeah,
yells
yeah,
every episode.
He yells because he
that
has nothing
he'll
else.
say
It's
every bad
nervous
boy
energy.
has a softer side.
Getting
Every
insulted.
bad boy does have a softer side, Joey.
Yeah, and you're all the softer side.
Here we go.
All right, we're going to defend our favorite Cheap Trick albums today. There's so many great Cheap Trick albums.
All of them are good.
Except The Doctor.
Wrong.
Wrong.
But anyway, so we're going to defend our favorite Cheap Trick albums, but we will put this caveat in there. We did not include Live at Budokan because obviously we'd all probably pick that.
It wouldn't have
Wrong.
been fair.
Right. Because
I wouldn't have picked
It's
it.
not fair.
It's really it's the
It's the Bible.
pinnacle. Yeah.
It is the Bible.
It's a brilliant album. but I
And
wouldn't
even
pick
if you have half the show or the full show,
it. Oh, yeah.
it doesn't
amazing.
matter.
All right, we're going to let you start the battle today, Keith.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
What
No, you're fine.
I'm completely confident in my pick.
what Cheap Trick album are you defending?
I am going with the self-titled Cheap Trick album. Yeah! Which is absolutely the best Cheap Trick album.
Wow. We will decide. Hey, producers aren't supposed to be taking sides here.
I'm
Listen,
sorry, but he's right.
this album,
Quiet, you.
this album was, in my opinion, the heaviest Cheap Trick album. It was the best bass sound on a Cheap Trick album. Played on a Firebird,
4-string Firebird.
4-string Firebird. with the treble cranked all the way up. Produced by Jack Douglas, who I think, the next two, I think, were Tom Werman. The next three were Tom Werman. Loved Tom Werman's production, but it was a little more polished for me. This was raw. This was what Cheap Trick was. This is what I feel Cheap Trick is. This is the one that dragged me in. I mean, you have Hot Love, Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace, which was a cover of Terry Reid.
We're going to get to the tracks.
He's a Whore. I'm doing it. Mandacello, which was the actual first recording they ever did with an actual Mandacello. But yeah, I mean, you can't deny this album. The song listing, the content of the lyrics, probably the best bass sound ever recorded for a Cheap Trick album.
Why don't you just say from Hello Kitties on, that goddamn record, Tip to Taint, is kick ass?
Are you saying side one or
Done.
side A is better?
And the cool thing about this album is that there is a side A and a side one. And the reason that is because Rick Nielsen felt that there were no B-sides on this album. He felt every single song on this album was stunning, and I have to agree with him. It's the best recorded bass sound on any Cheap Trick album. Hands down. It is the heaviest guitar album by Cheap Trick, in my opinion. And Robin Zander is flawless throughout. He's got the heaviness of Steven Tyler at times, and he's got the softness of...
He was compared to John Lennon a lot on this album.
I mean, that's what this is. This is The Move. This is ELO. This is John Lennon. This is the Beatles. I mean, it's everything amped up to 11. It's the best album. I'm sorry.
All right. We'll get some more
That's
points
me.
from you.
That's me.
All right, Jose.
I loved his review. I don't have such an elaborate review, but I do have my pick. And my pick is Heaven Tonight. And I have a plethora of reasons why this is the best Cheap Trick album. Not that I don't agree that the first album is what got you hooked. The first album was incredible. This is the third album. And what makes this record beautiful is that the very, very first song is Surrender.
I mean,
and without this album, there is no Budokan album. And what made those songs popular was the movie Over the Edge. And Over the Edge was the first movie that Matt Damon was ever in.
Matt Dillon.
And Matt
Dillon, not Matt Damon.
Well, if Matt Damon was in it, it would have been called something else. What would it have been called?
Overdone.
Anyway, Matt Dillon's first movie. That's the first time I heard Cheap Trick ever was in that movie, and I'm like, who is this band? I have to get it. Then Budokan happened. It all happened in the same year. I don't have to read the song titles to tell you other than California Man, which is a Roy Wood song from The Move, which later was ELO, is on here. I mean, this record was recorded at Sound City.
so your favorite track on the album is a cover?
No, my favorite track is not a cover. My favorite track is Surrender, which will always be Surrender.
Sure.
Because that's what made the band. And without this album,
Stiff Competition.
Stiff Competition is a great song too. On Top of the World.
Wiedersehen.
You know,
Come on.
every song on this record.
There's no bad song.
Yes, there is.
But that's the thing about Cheap Trick. When you talk about the first record, there are no bad songs. You go through the second record, there are no bad songs on In Color. You get to the third record, there are no bad songs on Heaven
You can
Tonight.
keep going. There are no bad Cheap Trick songs.
If you're a Cheap Trick fan from the first album on through the next 8 that followed, you're never disappointed.
See, he stopped at the Doctor.
I really didn't stop at the Doctor because the Doctor is a good album, and a lot of people hate it, and that's fine. There are no guests on this record. There's nothing added to this record. Just like the first 3, it's straight up Cheap Trick.
They did add keyboards on that one.
That's okay.
Oh, there's some honky-tonk piano and stuff.
But it's not a bad thing.
He's
just
not
saying.
part of the band. The guy's not part of the band. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
I love
Tom
Cheap
Werman
Trick.
seemed to love that honky-tonk piano. and he kind of ruined a couple songs with it.
Well, he was overly polished, in my opinion.
The title track has almost like a horror
Droning.
movie, like a haunting keyboard.
And that was played with Amanda Cello.
Yes.
Which was
And
already
it's just,
recorded on the first
that
record.
track is, we'll get into the battle here in a minute.
But I think they found their stride with this.
I think you're right.
You got lucky, and here comes the hit.
Well, probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest Cheap Trick song is the lead track.
Here comes the hit.
But
That's the Dress to Kill
let's talk about
of
the
Cheap
best.
Trick.
Here comes the hit.
Let's talk about the best album. Put that down.
Oh, jeez, here we go.
Let's talk about the overproduced best album.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to
I'm taking my
a
glasses
little
off.
album called Dream Police.
The Pinnacle.
The pinnacle. I mean, this is, first of all, before you even start, it's the best-selling Cheap Trick album of all time, next to Live at Budokan, of course. It went to number 6, platinum, on the charts. From tip to taint, this album is amazing. There's not one bad track on this album.
There were a few, if I may add, there
You
were
may.
a few songs they couldn't do live because they were so overproduced. Sorry, Robin.
Okay, well, I mean, a lot of bands do songs in the studio they can't produce on stage.
Which is ridiculous to me, but yeah.
I made a whole career out of that.
The Beatles were notorious for doing
Right,
records
I
that
mean,
would pull off live.
Whatever. Go ahead.
3
Tell
videos
me
off
why.
this album.
Okay.
Heavy rotation on MTV. You can't
Sure.
get away. Dream Police, the title track,
It's a great
is
song.
probably, if not Surrender,
The most
probably the
recognizable.
most
It was a Sick
recognizable.
Man of
Sure.
Europe song. So that was rehashed on the 4th album.
It was amazing.
But it's a great
And
great
not to say anything, but Tom sang a song on this album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no other Cheap Trick albums have Tom singing a song.
Everybody has to have an Ace Frehley once in a while. Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean-
my fault.
Seriously?
My fault.
You're
My
going
fault.
there?
Also,
My fault.
You're
okay,
going there.
There's
Fault.
one guest on the album.
Yeah, I know. Steve Lukather
Yeah,
from Toto.
I mean, playing on Voices, which is an amazing track.
Great
It's-
song?
Great song.
This album was pushed back because of the popularity of
I disagree.
Live at Budokan.
I
Fact
give
check
them
this
all
guy.
credit.
Need Your Love off of that album was actually on Budokan.
Which was on Budokan.
Killer.
And it's, I mean, come on. Is there a better closing track? I mean, Need Your Love is just amazing. Now, with all that said, let's talk about both your albums, okay?
Sure. You can talk about my record
So
all you
this
want.
album, again, went to number 6 on the Billboard charts,
Awesome.
okay? The self-titled album, 207 on the charts.
Oh Candy was the hit off of here.
207 peaked on the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven Tonight peaked at 48 on the charts.
And
Okay.
where did it,
Even with Surrender
that's
on it.
peak, but where did it place and why did it place? It placed on the charts when it was a dying record because Budokan came out
And saved it.
made it.
And saved it.
Sold.
Right. This album would
But-
be nothing without Budokan. though.
You're right, but-
This album,
But Cheap Trick without Budokan would have had no songs to play without Heaven Tonight. And they would have had a couple songs, but of the plethora of songs that are on Budokan, where did they come from?
There's a couple off of there. It's in color, which we didn't do.
We didn't even pick.
In all fairness, though, what was on the charts in 1978?
Well, what were they up against?
Yeah, what were they up against? Because
You were
I'm-
up against Boston's debut.
well, it's not just even
are
that. You're up against
Who are
disco and
Well, disco was the big
just-
thing.
Disco.
But
Ew.
but
It
you
was
didn't
just trying to
have
creep in.
you didn't have ELO jacked up to 11, and that's what this album was.
Well, right.
I
Your
mean,
album?
Because their
Yes.
influences.
Yes.
Because their
The Move.
influences shine
Beatles.
brightly on this record.
Yeah.
Beatles.
Their-
Even Kiss shows up. on
Their
this.
potential of everything they could be is this record.
Right.
Yes.
That's why
Their-
it's the best.
I don't think
It
it's
doesn't
the
make it
best.
the best. It just makes it very. I
Since
think all
when do
their
we
albums
listen
are
to
the best.
critics?
I think that all the records define who this band is, and they're
Yes.
still not as big as they should have been.
No.
Cheap Trick will never be as big as they should have.
They are. Cheap Trick is like the world's greatest opening band.
They're the biggest underdogs in the world.
They are.
They
and
are.
that's what we love about them.
And that's why the
And
three
they're
of
still
us
touring.
have always embraced this band. Not because someone said, "Oh, I was inspired by Cheap Trick. Oh, I better go listen to them." What did they hear
Oh,
that
no.
I didn't? You already knew. if you ever saw any movies when this album came out, you knew Cheap Trick. You had to have known. Over the Edge sold a lot of Cheap Trick records. As did
that great
later
Matt
on
Damon
when
out movie.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High
Or
sold
Up the
another
Creek.
plethora of
Or
Cheap
Up the
Trick
Creek.
Or Up the Creek.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but what
all of
song
them.
does he sing in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
I want you to want me. The dream police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your mama's alright. Your daddy's alright. But just seem a little bit weird. Surrender.
You're going to be so close, you're going to scare the band.
Now, I will tell you this. That first album that Keith is talking about,
It's monumental.
side 1 is
Or
almost...
side A.
No, side 1. I would say it's almost the perfect side of a record.
Well, it's a great.
And actually, the
Album.
band preferred side 1
Over
before
side A?
side A because it's not what's on the record. On the reissue, they flip-flop
You're
it.
trying to make a living.
This is
You're trying to make a
probably
career.
Tom Peterson's best bass playing in Cheap Trick.
He didn't start playing the 12-string until this album,
This
I
was
believe.
the first one.
The second one.
This is the
in
third
color.
album.
And,
In color,
I
he
thought it was the
started
third
with the
album he
12
started
string.
on it.
No.
Fact-checked it.
But he was playing the Firebird, treble cranked all the way up, and like I said earlier, I mean, some of the best bass lines of Cheap Trick music are on this album.
as a group that has inspired musicians for a lifetime,
This band.
there is no greater band than Cheap Trick.
But we're not here to suck each other's dicks.
No,
We're here
I'm not.
We're here to talk about what the
now.
best of these three
Don't make me
albums.
put my glasses on, Scott Vaughn.
Listen,
Are
one side great on that album. This one, first of all, the arrogance of these two.
you should
The
stop.
arrogance of these two.
There
just
is a
put,
theme
just
going
to
on.
put themselves on the cover.
Because In Color worked with just them on the cover.
the arrogance.
They did it again.
The arrogance to put the two pretty boys on the front.
Dude, the song track alone. Surrender, On Top of the World, California Man, High Roller, Auf Wiedersehen, Taking Me Back, On the Radio, Heaven Tonight. Stiff competition.
Listen, first of all, let's go
Stop
over.
yourself.
The riff I use every time before I buy a
Right.
guitar is Stiff
And that's-
Competition.
High Roller is a weak song. It seems like a throwaway song.
Never happened.
Take Me Back.
Never happened.
How repetitive is that
Who
song?
cares? I don't
Doesn't
care.
matter. It's kick
How
ass.
repetitive is Living La Vida Loca?
We're not. That's garbage. We're talking about
Okay,
Cheap Trick.
well, you're trying to say
We're
that.
How
taking
about
it
you
to
say Gonna Raise Hell for 17 minutes?
We're
How
taking
about-
it to
yeah.
a whole nother
Right.
level.
How about Big Eyes? How about,
That's not on there.
I know it's not. I just want to see if you were paying
It's a great
attention.
one.
And hey,
It's good.
hey, how about jumping on the bandwagon on the radio? Let's just strip off Meatloaf and put a radio announcer in the middle of the
Are
song.
you trying to make fun of my record, dude?
I'm
We're editing
debating.
this all up. It's not a debate. I
There's
just
no
summed
debate.
it up. All first 4 Cheap Trick albums, including Budokan or not including Budokan, changed the way bands
Rick?
approached music.
These guys don't know how to battle.
I'm not
I don't know how to battle.
I don't have to
I
battle
just
you.
sit here and
Give me
listen.
my records back.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, you're just debating. You're not battling. Go ahead and
yeah, we're
attack
debating. We're
those
not going to
records.
battle. You can't
Although-
battle me song for song because Surrender wins every time. And it
Against
will
Dream
always
Police?
win.
It's pretty close
Against Street Police on its in
Although,
reverse.
but I will say Dream Police is a great is a great
It's a
song.
great song, but
Hello
it's not
Kitties is
Surrender.
amazing opening track.
About a TV
Are
violence.
you
Daddy
kidding
should have
me?
stayed in school. Cry, cry. Oh, Candy. Come on. You're not gonna Hot Love. You're not gonna beat me on this.
The best part about this record, the highlight of that album,
Hot Love. Check that
Voices.
bass line out.
Voices
You should
is
learn one
amazing.
that good.
Voices is an amazing song from start to finish. We love Cheap Trick. It doesn't matter. There's no debate here. They're a great band. Everything they did was amazing. Even the Doctor. Shut your mouth. Yeah.
All right, I think we're done here.
Are you mad?
Joey, what would you like to plug?
I just want to tell everybody that I'm so happy that you guys are all tuned in. These are some of my best buds right here. And Pfluger's doing a great show producing all this shit. Cheap Trick's an amazing band. Thank you guys for watching. Stairway to Cleveland. Peace out.
That's Joey D. Come see us again sometime where we won't battle about records. That's Keith.
Why are you mad?
We'll see you next time.
Dude, why are you so
Right here
mad?
on Stairway to Cleveland.
Why are you so mad?
Deuces.
Everybody's so mad.
I'm not mad.
I'm not coming back.
I'm not mad. I don't know what he's getting at.
Everybody's mad, dude. It's not funny.